The Cipher Brief is in Warsaw, but Cipher Brief experts Ralph Goff and Glenn Korn are in Lviv, where they've just completed a several-day tour of the area. Gentlemen, where did you go and what did you see?
Hi, Suzanne. This is Ralph. Great to see you. Thanks for having us on. And it's very, I think, appropriate that we're making this broadcast on the 11th of September as Americans mark another sad anniversary of 9/11. And we're in a place here which at the moment seems happy, but good to remember that the Russians bombed this city just last week and killed an entire family. We've had air raids all week. As far as our trip here, I'll let Glenn talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, hi Suzanne, hi Brad, hi Cipher Brief team, and all the viewers and listeners. I want to repeat what Ralph said and stress that we drove today from Kiev to Lviv through Bucha and stopped, which is another site of horrendous terrorism. Disgusting to see what the Russians there did. I think over 400 civilians killed for no reason. We have been in Kiev. We went down to Kharkiv, where we had a great visit, and we stopped in Ternopil. Now we're in Lviv, and we'll be doing some other stuff tomorrow, which I won't go into detail, but it's been a great visit so far. It's extremely interesting, and our Ukrainian hosts have been outstanding.
I really want to talk, gentlemen, about the mood on the ground there. A lot of things have happened just in the past few days. The U.S. has said that, yes, Iran has delivered ballistic missiles to Russia. All the talk, of course, has been about whether the U.S. is going to give the okay for longer range missiles to be used to target sites that are deeper inside of Russia. What's the mood on the ground as all of this is going on?
So overall, compared to when we were last year with you in the Cipher Brief in April, Suzanne, the mood is darker, right? More depression, more anger, but at the same time, people try to live their lives. There's a lot of living for the moment here. For instance, the last 10 days here, we've had nothing but sunny 80-degree days, and the people have been out enjoying themselves while there's a war being fought. And at the same time, air raid alerts. When we were here last time, I think we had a couple in April. Now they're all through the night. We had one. The first night there was all night long. Air raids during the day, air raids during the night, missile strikes. People now, the mood here, it's complicated. On the one hand, people are trying to live their lives and they're trying to think ahead, but they don't really think past today. They can't plan for the future. And if you're a kid between the ages of 18 and 25, right, the draft age is now 25, 18 to 25, you're looking at what's your future? Are you going to be sent to the front? Is the government going to lower the draft age, again, into the 20s, into the teens, right? So apprehension about the long-term future is, I think, really at the top of the list in terms of mood. Glenn?
Yeah. Thanks, Ralph. Yeah, I'm stunned and amazed still by the positivity that we see among the Ukrainians in their faces, in their conduct. It's almost surreal sometimes to think that you're in a country that is being bombed, that is being attacked daily, nightly by the Russians and their Iranian allies. What I would say is we're hearing, yes, there's the political situation is getting tenser. I think there's more frustration in what's going on in Kiev. The people here are concerned about what's going to happen in the next U.S. elections. So we've had some discussions about that. And we continue to hear a lot of appreciation for U.S. support, but also a lot of frustration with the handcuffing or the limitations that we've put on the Ukrainians and what they can do with the weapon systems that we've provided them. So no real complaints, but the frustration is coming through. So hopefully that will be addressed.
Gentlemen, when you're dealing with missiles and air raid alerts, it's hard to say this, but words also matter very much. And as you know, the presidential debate happened within the last few days, and President Trump 2 times had the opportunity to really support Ukraine and didn't do it. I'm wondering, is that also causing concern on the ground about how he's feeling about Russia and what that might mean if he's elected in November?
Yeah, we had a lot of discussions. Our interlocutors this week varied from, people on the street, college students, restaurant workers to, government officials in the security and intelligence fields, government officials at the municipal and state levels, academics, people from the world of the performing arts and from, theater. So it ran the gamut. And look, everyone's kind of on hold for our election. They say even Putin's kind of waiting, that all this gamesmanship in Kursk, with the Kursk offensive and with the steady grinding away in the east, that's all just waiting to see what's going to happen with the presidential election. Underneath that, though, people still, it's kind of like Charlie Brown and Lucy in the football. People still have optimism and faith in America that will do the right thing. And it took forever to get the last aid package through, but it went through. So they're kind of looking at it as whether it's a Harris administration or a Trump administration. They're kind of counting on America to do the right thing and support Ukraine.
Yeah, I would say that I think they're being very smart. They're not getting dragged into our domestic political situation. We've heard comments in favor of both candidates. I think Ralph's saying that people are going to count on the U.S. no matter what. Not really hearing a lot of concern about if this candidate is elected or if that candidate is elected. And so I'm glad to hear that, because I really think that the Ukrainians need to be careful about being used as a political football. They have enough problems to deal with, and we've been trying to reassure them that no matter what happens in November, they're going to have support in the United States and in Europe, and that we're going to stand by them towards their victory.
Yeah. And as far as the decision to, allow the use of U.S. provided weaponry longer range into Russia, I'm sure there'll be caveats there, but my personal feeling is, why announce it? Just do it. Let the Russians discover that the approval's been given when stuff starts to blow up in Russia that prevents them from striking Ukrainian civilian targets.
Mm-hmm. That's a very interesting point. Gentlemen, let me ask you both, has there been anything on this latest trip that surprised you that you didn't expect? You were just there with the Cipher Brief in April. Any new surprises?
I would say we're hearing a lot from our Ukrainian interlocutors about the situation in Belarus. There's a lot of attention there. The Ukrainians have a very bold and courageous stance towards Belarus, and they're looking for U.S. leadership and some policy from Washington on the issue of Belarus. So hopefully we'll see that. We've heard some frustration that it doesn't seem that people in Washington are really paying attention to an issue which is very critical for them. And that's been a bit of a surprise, because as they're struggling for their survival, they're also thinking long-term about kind of what's going to happen in the region and how they can make the maximum effect for what's going on with the Lukashenko regime. So it's been very fascinating. We've had some great discussions on that topic.
Yeah, I would second that, Glenn. I would say that there are some gaps in American policy making, and the one gap is how to deal with Belarus. There's almost like a hands-off attitude there, right? Which I think needs to change. I mean, there isn't a legitimately elected president of Belarus who's not in Belarus, but is in exile in Lithuania. Ms. Tikhanovskaya. And meanwhile, there's another gap, and that's Iran, was shipping drones, now shipping missiles. I think the world needs to take a really tougher stance on Iran. And, I know they're busy with stuff in the Middle East there, but policymakers need to, I think, open the aperture and look towards how this impacts Ukraine.
Gentlemen, let me just ask your impression. The operation in Kursk was incredibly bold. It was kept incredibly secret. Given that you're both former CIA officers, I know you understand how difficult something like that can be. How much of an impact did that have psychologically on not only the people on the front lines in places like Kharkiv where you've been, but also the other people that you've talked to in the cities? How much of a psychological operation was that victory in Kursk?
I think I've heard mixed reactions. It's given a morale boost to some, but some are concerned that it didn't really have the effect that they were looking for to draw off the Russia offensive to the southeast. There's a lot of concern that or a question about whether they're going to be able to hold Kursk and what the long-term plan is. But overall, I think my own assessment is it was a good move. It sent a message to Moscow, and I would also stress that the 2 nights ago the mass attack on Moscow that the Ukrainians launched was, I think, a very good thing. It sends a message to the people of Russia, again, that Putin is not protecting them, he's not keeping them safe, and that under his leadership, Russia is only suffering.
Yes. Yeah, the Kursk offensive, I agree. That was a great thing. And I tell you what, if I were the Ukrainians, I wouldn't have told the Americans or NATO about it either. Because had they done that, they would have, the Western governments would have done everything in their power to prevent it. And that move actually did send a message to Putin. But you know what? The incursion into Kursk, I think, was meant equally to send a message to a future Harris administration or a future Trump administration that, hey, we know you guys want to think you can take lead in negotiations with Russia and work out the future for Ukraine. but we Ukrainians, we're going to take our future into our own hands, and we're going to have a say in how this thing turns out.
Cipher Brief experts and former senior CIA officers Ralph Goff and Glenn Korn joining us from Lviv. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here with us on The World Deciphered. It's great to see you.
Thanks.
Good seeing you.
God bless America and Slava Ukraine.